Welcome to the One NFP Financials and Financials Lite training on user-defined column layouts. Your database will come with several column layouts predefined, and you can make as many as you need. Let's go to Administration and User-Defined Column Layouts, and let's start with a basic budget to actual column layout and walk through the definition. Line number determines the order that the column appears in the final report. When I create column layouts, I generally number by the 100 so that I can insert easily, but it's up to you how you want to number. Column number is a reference. You can use it in calculations. In this example, I'm just repeating the line number, but I could actually have this first line say budget and this second line say actuals. The description is what you actually see as the header to the column. Column type is very important. You'll use this field quite a bit as you construct your reports. So this is going to take a little time, but I want to walk through each of your options. Formula, as it implies, tells the software that the values in this column will be calculated based on a formula that you define. Net change means that the information included in this column will use the report period you enter when you produce the report. If your report period is March 1 through March 31, transactions with posting dates within that range will be reported. You can build on that, as you'll see in a few minutes, but the report period will be the starting point for a net change column. If you select Balance at Date, the software will report the balances from the beginning of time to the end date of the report period. If your report period is March 1 through March 31, all transactions with posting dates through March 31 will be reported here. Beginning balance will return balances from the day before the start date in your report period. Again, if your report period is the March 1 through March 31, all the transactions with posting dates through February 28th will be reported in the beginning balance column. If you select year to date, the software will report balances from the beginning of your fiscal year through the end date of the report period you entered. If your fiscal year starts on September 1 and we use our March 1 to March 31 report period, this column will report all transactions with posting dates between September 1 and March 31. If you select Rest of Fiscal Year, the software will report the balances from the end of your report period through the end of your fiscal year. If your fiscal year ends on August 30th and your report period is March 1 through March 31, this column will report all transactions with posting dates between April 1st and August 30th. So if you imagine your budget, that would be a very good example where you might want to see what's budgeted for the rest of the fiscal year. An entire fiscal year will return results for your full fiscal year. Let's move to amount type. There are rare times when you'll select credit or debit in the amount type field. Usually you're just going to leave this as net amount. You'll use the formula field when you calculate column contents. In that case, the column type is going to be formula, and you'll enter what that calculation is here, and we'll see some examples of that later in this video. You can reverse the sign on the contents in the report results if you'd like. That's pretty handy for external audiences who don't always understand that revenue will appear as negative and expense as a credit. You can also add columns that you're going to use, for example, maybe in a formula, but you don't want them to show in the final report output. Show gives you that option. It also allows you to put some conditions around when a column may show. Rounding factor is another field that you will use rarely. Default is no rounding. Comparison date formula and comparison period formula allow you to use date codes to determine a date range in the column. We'll see examples of that in a minute, so let's skip over it for just a second. Transaction type, you can see here I'm using budget and actual. This allows you to filter the results returned. as do the remaining fields: budget plan filter, dimension speed key, funds and fund classes, and your dimensions. One final field I'd like to point out over here on the right, GL account filter. The row layouts will have an account or a range of accounts. You can also do an account here, but this is also a rule of thumb for all the filtering. The results returned in a report are the result of an intersection of the column and the row. So you have to be careful about conflicting and ultimately getting a result of null or 0 because the filter on the column is in conflict with the filter on the row. So this is something you'll use really rarely, but you can use it to create columns based on your accounts. And in that case, the row layout would have to have a very wide range, and the columns would narrow that range down. Okay, let's close this. Now let's open another column layout and talk about those comparison date fields. In most of the sample column layouts, we use the comparison date field. The comparison period field doesn't always act exactly the way you'd expect. In this example, my first column is going to return results for the report period that I enter because it's net change, while the second column, balance date, will return results from the beginning of time through the last day of my report period. The third column also uses net change, but with -1m in the comparison date formula, or -1 month, it will take the report period and subtract 1 month. So if my report is March 1 to March 31, this column is going to show me February 1 to February 28 or 29. The fourth column uses -1y, or -1 year, to show the balance date as of a year prior to my report range. The online help has a great deal more about using these fields effectively, and I suggest that you take a look at that and also take a look at the sample columns, as we use a number of different combinations here, and that'll give you some ideas. Whenever you're wondering what the date filter is doing, I want to give you a quick little tip. Click Analysis, drill down on the column in question, and this Show Filters button will tell you what the date range is that it's using. My report range was December 1st to December 31st, so the -1m made this November. Finally, let's take a look at a column layout with some calculations. In my sample data, I'm tracking both my original budget and a revised budget. Those use separate budget plan codes, so I can use the budget plan filter to report these amounts in different columns. This third column is adding those two together to give me my overall budget. This is just my actuals, giving me my year-to-date, how much I've actually spent. And here I'm doing another calculation. I'm taking my total budget and subtracting my actuals. So column B3 minus column actual. And this last one is calculating a percentage, just using a slash to calculate that percentage. My best suggestion for you now is that you take a look at the column layouts that come with your database, as there are several with examples of formulas and comparison dates, and then start to play. Thank you very much.